Welcome to the Stone Soup Recovery Podcast. Your host, Adam and Sean, will talk about their lives and living in recovery.
Hello and welcome to Stone Soup Recovery Podcast. My name is Adam.
And I'm Sean.
On tonight's podcast, we're going to be talking about the myths of recovery and what people actually think, that is true about people in sobriety. And there's the one that I'm looking at has at least 7 myths, and I know that there's more out there. But Sean actually found this topic, and we thought that it would be a great topic to talk about tonight. So, Sean, what do we have first on our list of what is a myth about sobriety?
Okay. Well, I'm just going to tell you the first myth that I can think of off the top of my head. If somebody were to ask me what I thought about sobriety or recovery, like a recovery facility, before I met you, because I really didn't know much about that whole avenue until I met you.
It's a good angle to look at it.
Yeah, I didn't even know that there were places like Bear River Treatment Center that was locally, existed.
Right.
And so for me, when I thought about going to like a recovery center, I thought that it was mostly for people that had money. I saw it on TV. They had this Dr. Drew on TV.
Celebrity Rehab, is that what it was
Mhm.
called? I remember that show.
Yep. And they were all like kind of far out there.
Yeah. They made a show of it and they made money off of people's pain is what I think.
Yeah. I'm sure all those people were truly, suffering
Yes.
from addiction. But they made it very dramatic.
Yeah.
So
they need ratings.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I had thought about what a treatment center would be like. Would be, it's where famous celebrities go and they hash out their drama and
Right.
So
It's where rich people go.
Yeah, so that wasn't really for me. So that was probably one of the main reasons why I never went to treatment.
Right.
And treated it myself because I just didn't know any better.
Right. I understand.
What about you?
Well, for me, one of the biggest myths, and I remember having this, is that, okay, well, I can't drink anymore. I'm not going to have any fun. I don't know what to do with my life. I don't know how I'm ever going to enjoy anything ever in life again. And that's just not the case.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of fun in sobriety. There's things that I do in my personal life. Little hobbies that I have, playing music, I love video. I love old movies, these things, doing the podcasts, that I would never have been able to be in a point where I could do a podcast when I was actively drinking. There's no way.
Right.
There's no way. And to me, it's challenging and it's fun. And that's just a few of the things that is fun in recovery that I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had the same feelings as well because I also play music and I travel a little bit with it, and I'm able to go to places like music festivals and fun places where there's always alcohol. And,
right.
Where most of my friends are partaking in with alcohol, and they know me to also partake in alcohol. And for me to be, saying, no, I don't do this anymore, then they kind of look at you a little differently, I think. Like they don't know if they should drink around you or they shouldn't drink around you or, and so for me, that too was also a big myth because in reality, people are going to do what they want to do. They don't care. Unless it is truly hurting you. But, if they're there to have fun, they're going to have fun.
Right.
And it's up to me to stay sober,
right.
So.
Yeah, it's a social fear, isn't it, for people in recovery?
It really is.
I guess I never really thought of it as a social fear, but in truth, it is.
Yeah.
And it's an anxiety-causing fear.
It kind of reminds me of, too, like when you have children and you go through a divorce and like all your friends are your friends as a couple and your kids are, entwined, and then you go through the divorce and your friends all kind of scatter. It's
Right.
kind of the same thing with sobriety for a while.
You had a divorce with alcohol.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
yeah.
But eventually that I feel for me that it evens back out again, and people, are like, oh well, she's still the same girl, she's still the same Sean, and she still plays her music and she still does her art, and she's, and then it just kind of levels back out again to a new normal.
Yeah. It takes a little time, doesn't it?
Hmm.
And you have to kind of wait for it to happen. But when you do, it just happens naturally. I remember feeling that way. Like I can never do anything in life again. It's over. What am I going to do? But that is a myth. That is a myth. And that is actually the first myth on my list. And for the second myth on my list, it is that all addicts are bad people. That's in a lot of ways, that's how the system and that's how America views addiction and alcoholism. And that is a myth. This is a huge myth. This is a myth that has caused a lot of people shame and undue shame that's not warranted towards them, because of this myth. This isn't a very good myth, but it's a true myth. So another myth is that an ex-addict can't be a good father, mother, or caretaker. I don't believe that at all.
um I guess it just depends on the situation. There are a lot of situations where children suffer because of their parents' alcoholism.
Right.
And it just depends on the individual and their situation and how they handle things.
I think that's a fair and honest answer. But on the other side of it, in recovery, it's a myth that we can't be like. It would be a myth. People would say that about me, like, well, he's an alcoholic. He can never be a good father, and I just don't think that's the case.
Right. If you're in recovery and you're proving yourself to be worthy of having children, if you're not
Right.
taking care of them and they take them from you,
Right.
and then you're in recovery and you prove that yes, I am serious and I'm going to, be well for myself and for my family, then by all means they should have that opportunity to have their children back. Yes.
Right.
But they have to, like I said, it just depends on each scenario.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I like that. Do you have one over there for me? What do you got?
Well, I think that another one that's just kind of on the top of my head is relapse. And
Yeah.
it's like when, you go through all of this and you think you've hit your bottom and you go to rehab and you're getting better and you're trucking along and you're doing the deal and you're doing what you're supposed to do. And then all of a sudden something happens, throws you off course, and then you are relapsing. You are back to drinking or you're back to drugging or whatever, your addiction is. Um so yeah, I think that the next one for me would mean relapse means treatment has failed.
Oh.
And I don't believe that. I believe that treatment gives you the tools. And if you relapse, it's because you're not using the tools they gave you.
That's correct.
So sometimes it takes a reminder to go back and relearn again. Yes, I do have these tools, and be retaught again how to use them. And sometimes it takes people a few times before they get it.
Some people say that relapse is part of recovery, but it's not. I don't think so. I think that relapse is part of addiction, and there's a
I don't
big
think
difference.
relapse is part of recovery either.
No.
Because
A lot of people think, well, a relapse that's normal. Everybody relapses. That's just part of recovery. No, it's not. I've heard that before
Mhm.
from a few people, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah, because not everybody relapses.
Not everybody relapses, and so it wouldn't be part of recovery. Relapse is part of addiction, plain and simple.
Mhm. Yeah, and it kind of on the same vein, just because you go to rehab, that's not the only way to treat an addiction either.
Right.
We've been talking a lot about, uh, you know, rehabilitation centers and things like that, but
Mhm.
I've never been to one, and I know most anybody that I know of that has been an alcoholic has not gone to them.
There's a lot of, like people in early in AA, the early days, they didn't have treatment centers and they
Mhm.
didn't go to treatment centers, and they had the big book, and they had,
Right.
some of them had meetings once a month. With Zoom, I can go to a meeting every hour.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's a lot different than it was then,
Yeah.
but not everyone needs to go to treatment to get sober, and you're proof of that.
Mhm. Yep.
But some people like me, I had to go a couple of times. I had to figure it out and get my head right. And
It's kind of like, one pill doesn't fit all diseases. Like if
correct.
you had a disease and they were giving you insulin for your diabetes and it just wasn't working. Well, other avenues are available now. And, sometimes those work better.
hmm I agree.
They're also different.
I don't believe in one way to recovery.
Hmm.
For me, there's a program called Dharma. There's other programs like NA. You know what I mean? And for me, I like AA. I can relate to it. And for other
Hmm.
people, there's also one called Smart Recovery that people really like. But for me, I find myself identifying as an AA member.
Hmm.
That's
I
just
think
me.
another one too is that if you're in recovery, a lot of people turn to God, and I think that just that itself is very powerful.
It is.
For the person who may not have the option to go to treatment, or the person who may not be able to get out and go to AA, there is online meetings, but some of your elderly people don't really know how to do that either.
Right.
So, but turning to your faith, whatever it is you believe in, going to church, being around other, people, that is really helpful in recovery as well.
It is. It is. That's a pro-social event in someone's life. And that's a good point. A lot of people find recovery in church. They do.
Hmm.
There's so many ways to recovery. There's not just one.
Hmm.
There's not just one. You know.
You went to recover or to Bear River Health twice.
I did.
And did you learn something new each time, or was it just a repeat of what you'd had the first time?
No, after my relapse, I went there for 2 weeks, and for me, I learned a lot. I let a lot go.
Hmm.
Um, but I think I needed the distance between me and the drink, because in the world, I couldn't do it on my own. I couldn't find that separation from the alcohol. But I knew if I went to rehab, that I would be okay, that I would have that separation and I could get my head right.
Yeah.
And that's the main purpose of me going, was because I was drinking every day.
Hmm.
Every day I was drinking.
Yeah, it's hard to just turn it off and stop cold turkey. Um, you know, for most people. I mean, that's kind of how I did it.
hmm
But for most people, there has to be some kind of intervention.
There was for me.
Hmm.
There was you and there was Zach and
Chloe, your daughter.
Chloe. So I had intervention, that's for sure. So next on our list is that addicts recover best through shame. Like when you shame someone because of them being an addict and for the things that they did, a lot of people turn their backs on addicts and alcoholics because of our behavior while we're actively drinking. And they think to themselves that that's the best way for that person to recover or that person to get better. It's to cut off all ties and to turn your back on them. And people do that.
That's happened to you.
It's happened to me. People do that. They turn their backs on you and they figure, you know what? This is what he needs. Just shame him. Centuries ago, when you did something in the village that wasn't, to village standard, they would shame you by every time you come walking by, they would turn their back literally to you. So that's where it comes from, turning their backs to you.
Yeah.
That's the term.
You have your family that's turned their back on you.
I have.
And even though you've now been in recovery for several years, they still.
Yeah. That's okay though. I mean, they're okay to feel that way. That's the way they feel. And if they want to continue to feel that way and to carry that, there's nothing I can do about it.
You know what I say? It's their loss.
That's their loss. Thanks, baby. It's their loss.
So the next one I have is people with addiction need to hit rock bottom.
Oh.
And for me, I didn't really hit a rock bottom other than the fact that my health started failing.
That's a pretty good rock bottom. Yeah. That would wake most people up, I think.
But I think though most people, when they think of their rock bottom, is like, oh, I went to jail and, I had to pay all these fines and, all these things. That's their rock bottom. But for me, it was my health.
Yeah, for some people, it's legal troubles. And for you, it was health. That was your rock bottom,
What was your rock bottom?
What was my rock bottom?
Yeah.
Man, my rock bottom, I went to prison. I went to jail. I was homeless. I kept hitting rock bottom and then going back to drinking.
Yeah.
So I did that for years because I couldn't figure out what was wrong with my life.
So your rock bottom was really bumpy.
My rock bottom was very bumpy. And when I finally did hit rock bottom, I hit hard and I dug down another 20 feet, and I just kind of laid there, beaten and mangled by alcohol. And that's what happened to me.
Yeah. Well, what's your next thought?
Well, a lot of people believe the legal medication doesn't count as being addictive.
Yeah, that's a good one. I can take these whenever I want because they're prescribed by my doctor. And or I can double up on this or yeah.
And it's just, that is just a belief that falls into addict alcoholic behavior. It truly is. To take medication that you shouldn't take and that you shouldn't be taking them. That's, addict behavior.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's a good one. I like that one. Let's see. What else we got? Every drug user is an addict. That's another myth. Because some people, I don't know, some people, they use, but they don't become an addict. But in the world sees it as, well, you're a drug addict.
Right.
So I can understand that one.
I guess it depends on how often they're using it.
I guess how often and what's happening in their life. I mean, it's all up to the circumstances. What do you got for me?
I'm trying to think. I think I've pretty much exalted everything that I had.
Yeah, about the myths.
Maybe that, I always thought like back to the rehabilitation center, that it was just so expensive.
Yeah.
Is a place like that expensive if you don't have insurance?
Very. Yes.
Yeah, so that probably plays a lot into people's lives, that how they choose to treat their addiction.
Yeah, I can't afford to go to rehab.
Right.
But there's a lot of programs and funding out there to get to rehab. So if you are searching and you feel like you're in need of rehab, don't feel discouraged. There's lots of funding out there, and that can get you to rehab. And if you email me, I can help you with that. But I think the greatest myth of all of it, from my point of view, is that, well, it's been a few years since I've had a drink. I could probably drink now or use now
Oh, yeah.
and
That's
be
a good one.
okay. Because that one popped into my brain a few times.
Yeah, I've thought that myself. But then I have to remind myself, no.
Yeah,
Alcohol is poison. It is literally poison.
it is poison.
That's why when you drink a lot, you get drowsy and tired, and your body's trying to fight that poison out.
It's a toxic. Yeah, you're getting intoxicated.
So to put that poison in my body, I just don't need that.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely poison. That's for sure. But for me, I would, in my little brainy brain would be like, well, it's been a couple of years now.
Yeah, but it will still be there. Once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic.
Always an
Always gonna
alcoholic,
have it.
always an addict. It's for the rest of our lives. You know what I mean? But I'm at a point in my recovery, my sobriety, where I can recognize it for what it is and move forward with my day.
Yeah.
But there was a time when I responded to that little voice was big in my head.
That little voice was your addiction.
That little voice is my addiction. That is correct. And so there was once upon a time in Adam's life that he obeyed that voice. Go to the liquor store at 9 a.m. before they open, and you're ready to get your stuff for the day. Things like that. I listen to that voice quite a bit in my life, but I choose not to listen to it today. And it's only through recovery and in the sobriety and in the point of sobriety that I'm able to recognize it. I am.
Yeah.
And move forward. So I would think that's for me,
Yeah.
my biggest myth.
I think also that if you surround yourself with people who, we kind of touched on this earlier, but people who aren't drinking, you just don't go around those people for a while. It doesn't mean forever. It just means when you're newly in recovery, because otherwise it makes it seem normal again.
Right.
And you're trying to make it so that you're not normal, your normal isn't drinking.
Well, I think everybody's circumstance is different. And for me, I just choose not to go back to the old crowd and the old stomping grounds.
Mm-hmm.
You sit in a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut.
Right.
And that's where, for me, that's what I worry about. That's why I don't even try to test myself. I don't try to, say, oh, I can do it now. I'm sober and, recovery's got my back. Well,
Yeah.
recovery tells me don't even go in there.
Yep.
That's what I think,
Yep. You have to push those thoughts when they creep into your mind that, oh, it's been 2 years. I can have a drink this New Year's Eve.
Right.
You have to push that aside and realize what it is. That's your addiction. That's part of your recovery. And you need to push that away and pull in the good stuff.
Right. Feed the good dog. Put the bad dog down.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. I like it. I love it. Thanks for listening to our podcast tonight. My name is Adam.
And I'm Sean.
Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, listen up.
Hey, we just wanted to give a shout out to our friends over at 217 Recovery Podcast, Corey and Marnie. They're great people. They got a wonderful podcast going. It's 217 Recovery Podcast. Tune in and give them a listen.